Cloud. Perfect. All right, we are cooking with gas. So let's go ahead and get started with geofencing retail strategy. Let's move forward to the next one. Everybody here, you all know me. You've seen our emails, or at least had some discussions with some of our senior directors and some of the VPs within our agency. Again, Propellant Media. We're a digital ad agency. We're based in Atlanta and also in Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, we do a number of things: AdWords, SEO, Facebook advertising. But I guess our claim to fame as an agency and what we really excel at is geofencing and programmatic display advertising for various organizations, companies, and a number of different sectors that we work across. So today, we're definitely going to have some discussions around the retail industries that perform well with geofencing, particularly during the holiday seasons. Also, how to develop more of a well-rounded retail campaign. And so, yes, even though I do say retail, I do mean that more to be if you have a brick and mortar type of a presence, we'll have some opportunity to talk about each of those different use cases closer to the end of the presentation. The one thing that I'm excited about personally, and we've had this discussion a few times before around how to measure foot traffic and the fact that we can measure foot traffic back to a client's physical location. But a lot of times we have clients that say, well, how do I know that those people weren't going to go to my location anyway? And that's this new report that I'm going to share with you all that we leverage, not for every single client that we work with, but for select clients where we feel like they would benefit from that additional piece of information. And then finally, we'll go through some actual use cases within geofencing, so different industries that we've operated in, sort of the kinds of recipes that would make the most sense for some level of success with some of those clients that we work with. For anyone that has a question, you should see a Q&A button. You should see, it says like mute, you have participants, you have start video. I think that's probably more for me, but then you have Q&A. If you have a question, enter your question in there, and I'll try to get to your question at the very end. Don't ask the question in the chat box because I'm probably going to miss it. And there's a lot of people that's coming in. Last time we had like close to 180 folks, so this one is a little bit more intimate, which is nice. So I should be able to get to majority of folks' questions on here. So when we think about geofencing marketing, again, let me just kind of recap it just one more time for those people who are kind of new to geofencing. Geofencing marketing is a form of digital display advertising under programmatic display advertising. Geofencing specifically gives people the ability to serve ads to customers, to individuals, to consumers in very precise areas. I mean, all the way down to the contours of a building. So if you want to target your competitor locations, retail locations, individual events, the sky's the limit. I mean, you can go as broad as you want. You can go as all the way down to the contours of a building. We have that level of granularity with geofencing. And I think as an advertiser, as a corporation, what you care most about is getting your ad dollars concentrated to those people who are most likely to be a customer. That's all what we all care about. And I think that's the beauty with geofencing. And specifically here from a retail standpoint, I've used this slide before, but sort of in a different way. I like to show folks the sort of the subsect industries or the areas within retail and brick and mortar locations that perform really well, and then the ones that are just kind of good and the ones that are just kind of okay. The ones that I personally, once again, believe perform incredibly well includes car dealerships, retail, franchises, of course. Restaurant and food does really, really well. And part of the reason it does well, and we have a number of restaurant groups that we work with at our agency, and they have plenty of restaurants that they each own. The reason is because a lot of times when someone is not just hungry, but a lot of times people just want to try something new. People want to go to a new restaurant, want to try something different. And if they see something that's nearby and there's an incentive to go to that restaurant, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to go. There's not a lot of decision making that's happening. It's like, oh, restaurant, oh, great food, oh, I get a discount. All right, let me go check that out. It's a new place I can take my loved one or take my family, or I can go there by myself for lunch if it's nearby my workplace. So we love restaurant type clients that we work with. Big box can be pretty good depending on your ability to serve ads to people utilizing a particular product that's being sold inside of that big box center. So that's just something to consider. We work with a number of specialty stores. Now we're getting into more of the other industries that still have a brick and mortar presence, such as medical and healthcare. Education, I think, also does relatively well. We have a number of education clients. Again, there's a campus. You can target other high schools, other areas. There's other tactics within programmatic that you can leverage from that standpoint. Real estate, I think, does relatively well in that space. Hotels is kind of an interesting one, but we still have seen some great success in that area. We've also seen really, really good success with casinos. And I'm going to be walking everyone through an actual case study that we've worked on for a national museum that's located here in Atlanta, Georgia, for our geoconversion lift report that we'll talk about in a little bit. The areas that are just kind of good, and I think these are more areas where there's not so much a brick and mortar presence, but more so an office presence. Again, I know this conversation is more around retail, but I just want to throw this in here. Professional services like HVAC, HVAC repair, those types of things, or in this case, legal. Companies that have an office location, I think, can still make for good geofencing campaigns. It just depends on the strategy that's being put forth, and that's really what we're going to go through today on this call. And then for me, the ones that just do kind of okay are more those areas around B2B, meaning, say Justin Croxton and Propellant Media. We're trying to geofence all of our other digital agency clients or digital agencies that are out there, and we want to go after their clients. That's I don't think that geofencing is appropriate in that regard. So it's not to say that it can't be successful. A lot of it has to do with the creative. A lot of it has to do with the landing page that you're sending traffic to. It's a lot of different factors, but you ultimately, as a marketer or as a company, you just have to think about the life cycle of that consumer. How long is it really going to take for them to bite? Is that creative compelling enough to convince that person to act in some capacity? So that's sort of the way that I look at that ultimately. Let's go to the next one. So again, this is more for the folks that haven't been on one of these webinars in the past. But the places that you can geofence, again, your competitors. You can also do more of a customer loyalty geofencing campaign if you wanted to target just all of your individual locations. So let's say if you're AT&T, you have stores all around the city of Atlanta, you're running a special and you're trying to promote the iPhone. You can target all the folks who have come to their locations for repair or in some capacity to help promote the iPhone. That might not be the best example, but you kind of get where I'm coming from. You also have traditional retail locations. Trade shows and events, I still believe, are great opportunities for branding and exposure to the folks that are at trade shows. Our agency, we were at a franchise show, if I'm not mistaken, and we geofenced that location, and I think it helped us with getting some decent exposure as well. So that's another example. Individual buildings, hospitals, cross streets, cross sections. We also, with our new product that we call addressable geofencing, we're not going to really go over that on the call today, but with addressable geofencing, we can utilize plat line coordinates and build individual fences around homes. So if you had 5,000, 10,000, a million homes that you wanted to geofence, we can actually do that within our platform and serve ads directly to the people that walk inside those particular geofences. And then, of course, sporting events as well. So I think this is sort of a nice recap for a lot of people, because this gives all of us the ability to think, okay, how can I develop an effective strategy for my retail business or for my company that has more of a brick and mortar presence? The different types of places that you can, in fact, geofence will help indicate the overall strategy that you want to develop for your campaign. So, developing well-rounded geofencing retail campaigns. Let's get into it. This list of questions is really not limited, but this is some of the questions that we may answer or we'll try to ask from time to time. The most important piece, of course, is where do my customers hang out? Where do the customers for my business typically hang out? And that will give us some indication of who we in fact want to geofence. So whether it's my competitors, maybe they're looking to make a purchase decision prior to going to one of my competitors. Looking at that life cycle of that customer, those are the places that you want to consider as you build out all the locations that you effectively want to geofence. Next question that we like to ask is, what points do they or can they engage with my brand? So this has not just to do with geofencing, but also trying to think about the type of content that those consumers will go to before they make a decision. So if it's someone in the medical space and they're looking to get their braces, get new braces, for themselves, maybe they're just doing some research on Invisalign, and they want to run, a keyword contextual campaign or something more along those lines, in addition to, in addition to targeting other dental practices, let's say, or that advertising wants to target other dental practices. That's just another tactic that we would employ, but that still gives you a sense of how to develop the proper geofencing campaign in that respect. Obviously, demographic and psychographic targeting at the household level, that's still something that we can do, but also the demographic and psychographic targeting is helpful if we want to target just people that are going to just a white list of URLs, or if we know that there are certain locations that that particular demographic goes to, right? So if we want to get our message in front of people that are high schoolers, then we're going to probably geofence high schools. We're also going to geofence nearby malls that a lot of those high schoolers typically frequent. And then every once in a while, to ensure we're only getting our message in front of those high schoolers, we can also layer in demographic targeting on top of geofencing campaigns. In our world, that does cost a little bit more, but again, as an advertiser, what we all care about is getting our message hyper locally focused and our ad dollars concentrated to those people who are most likely to be a customer. And so those are some of the additional layering tactics that we can leverage from a geofencing standpoint. How many times do I need to hit that person with ads in order to get their attention? That has more to do with both frequency and recency. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but a lot of times you don't want to just serve 20 ads per day per person. That could be too much, and that doesn't extend the reach of your ad budget to more people. That's just something that you have to think about as you're developing your geofencing campaigns, or thinking about the right strategy for the clients or for your own organization that you work with. And then also this last one I think is really important, which is what level of urgency is being exhibited by my customer base. So the one thing that I like to talk about is we have a few bail bonds clients that we work with. There's a high urgency with bail bonds clients because a lot of times they're like, look, I need to get out of jail, or I have a friend that needs to get out of jail, and I need to get a bond. Who out there can get that problem solved for me? Or if it's a moving company, and a moving company is trying to get their message in front of people who are in the process of moving. Usually if I'm a moving company, or rather if I'm a person that's in the market looking to move, I'm going to Google, but every once in a while I'm going to be doing some research. I may be at, say for example, I might, and then just, I'm just sort of spitballing here a little bit, but let's say that I'm a customer and I have a lot of my stuff is in storage. As a moving company, I might decide that the best place to geofence would be other storage facilities, because at one point or another, those people are going to have to move. Maybe they don't want to move their own stuff. Maybe they do. I don't know. But in some capacity, they're likely to be more prone to moving. And so a moving company may want to leverage geofencing as a tactic to get their message in front of those people most likely to be in the market to move. So this list of questions isn't limited, but these are just some sample questions that you can utilize for, as you're kind of thinking about the overall strategy and the life cycle of the customers that work within your organization, within your business. Not work within, but you get what I'm saying. So when we're running different campaigns for many clients, there's a number of tactics and things and variables that we're trying to consider for the campaigns that we're running. And so I'm just going to go through this list. I'm not going to take too long, but this list is really important. The first is budget. A lot of companies will come to us saying that they only want to do a $500 campaign. And we immediately tell them that, we try to sort of do a diagnosis, right? What are you currently spending your ad dollars on? Are you doing AdWords? Are you doing other things? Okay. Are you a moving company? Do you fit more in that bucket? Or are you more of a restaurant and you're really trying to get more people to come to your restaurant, and you know people aren't just naturally doing searches on Google for a restaurant, let's say. In that case, we will tell a client, hey, we really need you to increase your budget, not just necessarily to our benefit, but because this is a mixture between direct response and branding. This is right there in the middle. So a monthly budget of 500, in some cases $1,000 isn't going to cut it. There are certain industries where you can get away with $1,000 budget. But when you're talking about $500 a month, sometimes it's just a little bit too, it's not enough. And I think for us, we've sort of developed or gotten a sense of the recipes that work based on budget, based on client, and we can talk about that at some point in the future. But I do take that into consideration. Some people think that it's not important. It's very, very important. Obviously, who to geofence, so the locations, we've sort of talked about that already. How many geofences? This is an important strategic variable. And I say that because some people will think that only targeting 5 locations is great. But for us, our sweet spot for a client is somewhere between 10 to 15 locations for every, let's say, $1,500 to $2,000 that the client spends, depending on the vertical that they operate in. But every once in a while, we'll have some clients that want to geofence like 100 locations for a $2,000 budget. And in those cases, you don't want to spread your budget too thin. Like, yeah, we do want to get a sense of which of these locations are actually translating into more foot traffic to our brick and mortar store. But if you get too many locations, then you're spreading yourself too thin. It's just like with an AdWords, right? For everyone that does AdWords out there, if you have a client that has a $1,000 or $2,000 budget, you don't want to put in, 5,000 keywords or 10,000 keywords. That's going to spread your budget out a little too thin. So it's sort of in the same regard. There's always a sweet spot that you want to consider from that perspective. Recency, how long to capture your audience pool. For us, our agency, we have a number of different platforms that we use from a geofencing standpoint. The recency can be 2 weeks, it can be a full month. It could be even longer than that, depending on the other platforms that we leverage for certain clients that we work with. But let's say that the recency can go anywhere from 1 day to a full month. Recency is essentially the length of that audience pool. So as soon as someone enters that geofence, and then they leave that geofence, we capture their mobile device ID, and we can begin serving ads to that individual. From that standpoint, we could effectively target that person for 2 weeks if we wanted to. We could also target that person for only 1 day if we wanted to. And then after that, they would fall off of that audience pool. That is important because there are going to be certain cases, like in the travel and hospitality space, if someone's traveling from out of town, you may not want, if you're a restaurant and you know that someone's going to a particular hotel, you don't want to put a recency of a month for that hotel, because people are going to be going to other parts of the country or other parts of the world, and you don't want to continuously hit those people. As part of the strategy that you have to think about as you're developing your own retail and brick and mortar type geofencing campaigns. Creatives to utilize. Creative is very, very important. We do creative within our own agency. We actually have a couple folks on the line, including Miguel, who also does quite a bit of creative for their clients as well. Whether it's over-the-top TV, static, or video, it's important to utilize this as sort of as part of the thought process, because some folks may have certain video ads that can work that are like 15 seconds and 30 seconds long. And then some people may want to get more reach, right? You know that for video, you're going to spend more, you're going to get less impressions, whereas with static, it's a lower CPM rate that compared to video, and you get more reach that way. So you just have to kind of sort of take that in consideration as you're developing your own geofencing campaigns. Day parting is sort of more of the when, who and when to serve the ads to. Also, what times of the day. You may not want to serve the ads 24/7, so that's something that we try to consider from time to time. Percentage of budget allocation. I've mentioned to a lot of people on the call today that we don't like to only do geofencing campaigns. We like to do search, keyword, contextual, site retargeting. And so trying to figure out the right percentage of allocation is something that's always important as well. Viewability has to do with showing ads above the fold or below the fold. Just note that if you want to show ads more above the fold, you're going to have to spend a little bit more for that. So that's just something to consider. Landing page considerations. We like to say it's not just about the creative that you put in front of people, but where you're sending people to. So it's really, really important to have a landing page that does resonate with folks. I just put it that way. As you're optimizing a campaign, you may notice that there are, even before then, you may notice that there are certain apps that you never want to show up on. And I'm not talking about like some of the bad apps that are out there. Like on our platforms, we don't serve ads on, let's say, some of the more risque sites that are out there, but there might be certain gaming apps that you don't want to show up on. That too is a strategic variable that's worth considering. And then of course, there might be some other tactics that are important to consider from a retail geofencing standpoint. So for us at our agency, we use a number of other factors to consider, including running a client through not just one platform, but 3 different platforms, and then working across multiple different different tools and things of that nature that we want to leverage for some of those particular campaigns that we're running. And again, part of the strategy, I know a lot of you all on the call today are probably doing some form of, AdWords, SEO. You're probably doing some Yelp if you're, if you're a restaurant, let's say, or leveraging Facebook. All of these other areas needs to go into your consideration set, because all these areas are important in terms of hitting those customers at multiple angles. Because what's going to happen is when you're geofencing a location and someone sees your ad, they may not ever click on that ad, but they still might do a search for your brand name, or they may find you online in some other capacity. So your ability to show up in front of them over and over again sort of lends a higher credence to them acting or engaging with your brand. So that's one of the things that we like to tell clients from time to time. There are certain verticals we don't always need to do paid search or Facebook and SEO, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's one thing that we do like to have a discussion around from time to time. So, geo conversion lift reporting. A lot of you already know that at Propellant Media, we have the ability to measure foot traffic, meaning those people who have either seen or clicked on your ads and then came back to your physical location. It's one of the things that we already do, bread and butter, simple, straightforward. We can set that up with no problems. We love this because it gives us another talking point, not just if you're a white label partner on the call today, not just for your clients, but also a lot of our direct clients who want to see how many people have in fact seen our ads and then actually came back to our client's physical location. But one of the things that we get from time to time from a client as well, yeah, it's great that that all these people saw my ads and then came back to my location, but how do I really know that those individuals weren't going to go to my location anyway? How do I know that, Justin? I'm like, well, goodness gracious, these ads are having an impact. And it was like, yeah, but I need proof. Please give me more proof. And I was like, well, okay, well, thank you for, teeing that up for me, because I do have proof for you, oh, restaurant client. So in this case, this is an actual example of a client in the restaurant industry that we work with. And what we can do at our agency is make a comparison between natural foot traffic as well as your advertising or your campaign foot traffic, meaning those people who have in fact seen your ads and then came to your brick and mortar location or your office for that matter, or people who have not seen your ads but still came to your location. Because in both instances, you have a conversion rate. You have, in this case, for this restaurant client that we work with, you have people who have never seen their ads but still came to their location. And in this case, they've had at least 151 new visitors, or in terms of new and repeat, 280 new visitors that have been to their location. They're currently standing at a 1.35% walk-in rate. That's what we call a natural conversion rate. But when those same people, meaning that same statistically significant sample list, sees an ad from your restaurant, your conversion rate goes up, or your walk-in rate goes up to close to 3%, essentially. So now we're able to show the client that, this isn't just pie in the sky type stuff, we can now say to a client, hey, this is what your current natural foot traffic is looking like, but this is what your traffic looks like when people see your ads. And this is where this is sort of where your lift is going. That's why we call it geo conversion lift, is because we're making a comparison between this natural conversion rate as well as this campaign conversion rate. And that's where we get this geo conversion lift right here. Very, very powerful stuff. I think, out of all the reports that we pull for a lot of our clients, this is one of my favorite ones. We don't always have, campaigns that are just, off the charts incredible, but this is a really good one. And this is why I was saying that restaurant clients are great, great clients to work with from a geofencing standpoint. But yeah, this one was a really good one. I can't share exactly who this one was for, but this was very interesting stuff. So we can also see how many people have seen the ad. So 2,800 people out of 20,000 or 21,000 folks. So that means that we've only reached 14% of the population of locations that we've geofenced. So that's another pretty interesting piece of information that's useful for certain clients. And then also, for anyone, once again, if you do have some additional questions that you want to share, you can enter them into the Q&A section. So be sure to enter your questions into the Q&A section if you have some questions. We can go from there. This is another client that we were working with. They're a national museum, much larger, I won't say much larger, but certainly a larger budget. But they are also targeting quite a number of locations, including Atlanta, Hartsfield, Jackson Airport, a number of schools in the Atlanta metropolitan area. And what was nice for this client is, in spite of targeting those particular locations, those locations get quite a bit of traffic, meaning physical traffic. However, we've still been able to show a lift in foot traffic to their location. So in this case, we have 321% geo conversion lift that we've experienced from this particular campaign. So again, without those individuals that we've geofenced seeing the ads, they're hovering at a 0.13% natural conversion rate. However, when those same people are exposed to our advertising, it goes up to 0.55%, right? And you can see here that, there's been at least 3.2 million people that we could have reached, but we've only targeted 4% of those individuals. And then here you can see that there's been a total of 805 walk-ins, whether they be new or repeat walk-ins for this particular campaign. So for anyone that's curious or wants to know a little bit more about our geo conversion lift report, please feel free to shoot us an email. But in my mind, I think this is a very powerful report. It's just another talking point that helps us make better decisions on what parts of our campaigns are or are not working, so that we can make the right decision in pivoting to what's going to be successful for some of those clients. So again, some of the benefits that I've personally seen from the report, again, you can make a comparison between the natural walk-ins to your storefront or to your healthcare institution or to your restaurant or to your brick and mortar, or even to your office for that matter, compared to those who have in fact seen your ads and then walked to your location. You can also see the overall mobile users that are inside of those geofences. That's pretty nice. You can view the total users who have in fact seen your ads. We can make a comparison between both repeats as well as new converters, meaning new people who have been, repeat visitors as well as people who have newly been to your location. What's also nice is some people will think that if I see the ad once, but I go into the location 20 times, it's going to count as 20 visits, and that's not correct. If I see the ad once and I walk in there 20 times, it's only going to count it once, which basically means that each impression is matched to the walk-in. So if I go inside of your location 20 times and I see the ad 10 times, it will count 10 times, right? But I've seen the ad only once, but I've been inside your location 3 times, I still will only be counted once. So it helps with a cleaner reporting system in terms of this geo conversion lift report that we see here. So you're not going to see, the data just is a lot cleaner from that standpoint. So I just wanted to, notate that to everyone. And then finally, the percentage of the total audience that you've reached. I think that's a really nice, important metric. We've had a few clients in the automotive space that were curious what percentage of the audience have either seen their ads, and how many of those folks have we in fact gotten our ads directly in front of for some of those clients. Again, if you have any questions, just enter them into the Q&A section, and I'll be sure to get to some of those. So let's do a couple use cases. Again, I know this was going to be a little bit more in the retail, more of a retail geofencing conversation, but I thought it'd be nice, again, to incorporate some brick and mortar type of discussion. So in this case, if you're a car dealership, these are some of the recipes that we like to put together for car dealerships. Just kind of giving away the show here a little bit, but I think this could still be a useful conversation. So for car dealerships, we do like clients to be spending at least, $1,500 to $3,000 a month. Probably more than that, but as a good starting place, we like it to be around that range. We like to do competitor dealerships, collision centers. We'll do auto loan banks from time to time. We'll do addressable geofencing, like a client may have a list of leases that are expiring over the next 3 to 6 months. And we may build fences around those locations and then showcase advertising directly to those individuals. So that's one thing that we like to do. 2-week to 1-week recency. We kind of go back, we oscillate on this one every once in a while. Some of our car dealership clients that we work with, every once in a while will say, well, when someone goes to another location or they go to another car dealership, they're making their decision within a week. We've seen there be cases where clients will make their decision not within a week, but within like 2 weeks to a month. So maybe what we'll do is for the first 2 months or 3 months of the campaign, we'll leave the frequency, or I'm sorry, the recency, excuse me, between 2 weeks to 1 month. But then as we notice, there are certain car dealerships or certain locations where people are like making that purchase relatively fast, or they're going back to our client's location and making that purchase relatively quickly, we'll scale it back to 1 week recency in order to get more reach out of our ad spend for that client. Again, in this case, we like to do multiple locations, so at least 5 to 15 geofencing locations I think is respectable. All those car dealerships out there, if you're doing any form of TV advertising, or if you have video assets on YouTube, we can leverage that. So we like to do a mixture of all of these, so OTT, static, and video. Definitely incentives. A lot of people buy cars when there's an incentive or there's a deal to be had. So having incentives in that creative is absolutely vital. Day parting, most of our campaigns, we don't always like to serve them 24/7, but there are certain cases where for car dealerships, we will serve ads mostly during the day, or from, let's say, 6 a.m. to like 10 p.m. for those people who are doing research at night, looking at different cars. Standalone or other digital channels, I think personally, out of all the industries out there, I think geofencing works incredibly well as a standalone tactic for car dealerships, but it can still work well when you incorporate search retargeting, keyword contextual site retargeting, or any other thing that you might be doing, whether it be your offline channels or, for that matter, AdWords or SEO, for that matter. Moving over here into the healthcare space, healthcare and medical, whether you're a medical office or a hospital system or you're an urgent care facility, eye doctor, optometrist, there's a ton of different options that are available. These are some of the things that we do like to look at. First is competitors, nearby dealerships, pre-symptom locations. And when I say pre-symptom locations, I don't mean like us targeting, like if you have a cancer-based product and you're trying to geofence cancer clinics. Like, I mean, personally, we don't like to do that type of geofencing, but there still might be certain locations that give you an indication that this person could be in the market for something that's healthcare centered, and we might be able to geofence those locations. In terms of monthly budgets, I know I said 2,000. I think you can still probably get away with about 1,500, but certainly 2,000, at least 5,000 for urgent care, hospital systems, those types of places. But if you're more like a chiropractor or if you're a dentist or something along those lines, I think you can probably get away with, I'd say probably 1,500 and still be in a decent shape. Recency, definitely 1 month. You want to keep hitting those people often. A minimum of 15 to 30 locations, probably 15 to 25 locations to target. We like to incorporate addressable geofencing from time to time, layered in with some additional demographic targeting for some of those campaigns. We love OTT. We've had a hospital system that we worked with where we did OTT. I'm sorry, we did static and video, which performed relatively well. It's a nice mixture of that type of strategy that worked out relatively well for that particular client. And then definitely standalone or incorporating with other digital channels that you want to incorporate for some of your campaigns. For restaurants, this one is a little more straightforward. $1,000 per month minimum or $2,000 per month minimum, I think is good. Targeting the different types of people that you would target would be competitor restaurants, do apartments, apartment buildings that might be nearby neighborhoods. Again, you're trying to, I guess, let more people know that you exist, as a restaurant. So that's sort of the approach that we would take. We wouldn't target, a 5-mile radius or anything like that. Maybe locations that are within a 1-mile radius. And then as a restaurant, if you want to expand beyond that at some point in the future, you can certainly do that. We like to do 1 day to 2 week recencies. Every once in a while, we'll keep it at 30 days. But I'd say 1 day to 1 week to 2 weeks if you really are just trying to get a high level of reach for your restaurant. And I think that strategy can actually perform well for restaurants. We do have some flexibility in that, but that's an approach that we like to take a lot of times with our restaurant clients that we work with. A minimum of 10 to 20 locations. Once again, I think that's good. I personally like to use static mainly for restaurants. I don't like to do video as often because a lot of times, I guess like number one, we're trying to get more reach, and static is typically going to be less expensive than video. But also, if you have like a nice image of the plate or the meal itself with the discount, whatever that is, that just seems to resonate better from what we've seen. And definitely having those incentives baked in, I think performs well as well. And again, this can be a standalone tactic. This doesn't always have to be incorporated with other tactics. And then finally, retail franchise. So, big box stores, retail, if you're selling like certain products, if you're a boating store, let's say, or if you're a clothing store or toy store, a lot of brick and mortar locations in that regard, I think this is sort of how this can work. Minimum $1,500 to $5,000 a month. You can target competitor locations, malls. We like to use addressable in this case too, and nearby neighborhoods. We have high-end clients that we work with where the competitor locations, but we'll have a mall where we'll target only sections of the mall. That's not always easy to do, just FYI. So yeah, I know a number of people are going to come back to me saying, oh, I only want to target this part of the inside of the mall. That part can be tough. But certain sections where people are walking inside of, or if that one section of the mall is one particular competitor location, we can geofence just that particular section, if you will. 30-day recencies, I think, is totally fine in this regard. It doesn't have to be 1 day or 2 weeks for that matter, because you need to keep impressing upon people your brand and the offer that you have available to that individual. Personally, I like to do a minimum of 15 to 20 geofencing locations for retail, brick and mortar, those types of geofencing campaigns that we run for clients. I think over-the-top TV, static, and video can all work relatively well for retail and franchise. Definitely incentives, and I think everyone here has sort of heard the theme. Don't just create ads that tells people you exist. I think the only area that you can do that in is in the healthcare medical space. And even in that space, you still need some incentives baked into your offers from time to time. If you're a hospital system, it's a little different. But if you're a chiropractor, you want to have an offer. You want to give someone a reason to come in and get their back checked out. Or trying to incite or get those people excited about a special offer that can make them act. That's sort of the way that I look at it from that perspective. I also like to, every once in a while, we'll relegate the advertising to particular premium apps that we operate in. So, for certain clients, we may let them know that we have a list of premium apps. And if you only want to focus on those apps, it's additional $1 or $1.50 CPM charge, but you're able to get some of your ads focus on just those premium apps rather than all the apps that we have access to. And for all those that's out there, we have over 600 to 700,000 apps that we can effectively serve ads on. And then of course we have all the different websites that we can serve ads on too. I'd say when you make a comparison between apps versus websites, however, I'd say at least 95% of ads for a geofencing campaign will be done through in-app, and then the rest of it will be done through websites. Whoa, that doesn't look good. Let's see here. Here we go. Perfect. Can everyone still see my screen? All right, perfect. Thanks, Laura. I guess I probably could have asked that question like 10 minutes ago, but I assume that everyone was good. So preparing for 2019 geofencing advertising and also the holidays. I think the holidays are, I mean, people have pretty much made their decisions at this point, but I still think there's a lot of opportunity going to Q1 for ad budgets for geofencing and other matters. The first is definitely being able to earmark some budget for geofencing. So if someone's doing offline advertising, if they're doing AdWords, SEO, there are or should be at least some opportunities to earmark some budget for geofencing from that standpoint. The next piece, definitely try to consider some of the creative assets that will actually be needed for Q1. And that sort of runs in tandem with the actual specials that some of the retailers, or if you're a car dealership, or if you're in the medical space, the specials that you might be running at any given time, so you can plan for that going into Q1 and have that be also tied into your other advertising that you might be doing, whether it's TV, radio, print, or with AdWords as well. I think that's very important. And like I said before, considering all the other channels that you're leveraging and how you're incorporating that into as part of your geofencing strategy for yourselves, or for the white label partners on the call today, for any of your clients that you're working with. This other piece, reviews for your location. If you are definitely retailing, you have a brick and mortar presence, and you have your location is within Google My Business or in Bing Places or that matter, and you have reviews, really trying to make sure that your reviews are beefed up is very vital going into 2019. Again, with geofencing, you won't only get traffic from people that click on your ads and go to your location. People will see your ad and at one point or another do a search, whether it be for your brand or for a non-branded term. And if they go to your listing and they see that you're averaging like a 3-star review, it's like, well, I don't know if I really want to check those guys out. The reviews are very, very important, everyone. So I really want to stress that upon everyone on the call. And then finally, do an audit of your site. You know, get a couple people to come and take a look at the site. Some people will talk about wanting to spend $5,000 to $10,000 a month. And then, you know, our senior directors or our VPs or our partners will take a look at their site and we're like, hey, your site is trash. It doesn't look good. You need to make this a little bit more optimized. You need to do this, you need to do that. Those things are absolutely vital before you try to spend all of this money on digital advertising. I think for our agency, it was very, very vital before we actually did any form of SEO or things of that nature. We really wanted to make sure that we got our site right and that we provided value to people that were looking for geofencing or programmatic display. So you want to create a great user experience for people in that regard. So again, everyone, I know it's sort of long-winded. I know we talked about a lot, but again, we kind of talked about not just the industries, but the areas within brick and mortar and retail that work great both during the holidays as well as going into Q1 2019, how to create sort of those well-rounded geofencing programmatic display campaigns, not just how we measure foot traffic, but more importantly, the comparison between natural foot traffic and advertised foot traffic. And I think for us at our agency, this is really a selling point because a lot of clients just want to have reporting that they can see, that to help them paint a bigger picture and get a sense of the impact that their advertising is having on their business. And of course, we talked about some of the different use cases within geofencing strategy for that matter. So I think we have about another 12 minutes to go. So I'm going to go through some of these questions and see here. Let's go through. Oh, sorry. Totally forgot. We have a strategy guide. It pops up on our website for those people who have been to our site and probably seen all the annoying pop-ups. Hey, what can I say? You guys are here on the call, so it's worked to some extent. But we actually have a link that you can go to. I'm going to, let's see here. Yeah. So if you were to even go to Google and you did a search for Propellant Media Ultimate Guide Perfect Geofencing, let's say, you'll find this link and you'll be able to download it. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there in case anybody who does in fact, or is in fact looking for a similar guide of what we kind of discussed today, this gives some additional insights around that. So let's go through some of these questions. Robert, do we have audio? Yes. Sorry, this is probably earlier on. Okay, Gary, I sell to convenience stores with gasoline sales. Any suggestions for them? With gasoline sales. So I guess the locations that you could geofence is you can geofence other nearby, I won't say gasoline, but I guess other convenience stores that might be nearby. And I think again, the key in that space is, I know that the pricing is very stochastic and changes often. So it's very random. It kind of goes up and down based on OPEC and the oil markets. So in that case, I still believe that there's some value and possibly, I don't know if there's any rules or regulations against this, but creative that's going to let folks know, like, hey, we have great gas prices, come check us out. Or if you guys do a great breakfast, a sort of a great breakfast menu at some of those convenience stores, focusing on the product rather than just the location is always a better route to go. Always a better route to go in most cases. Don't just say, I'm a convenience store, come check me out. Who cares, right? What I care more about is you're a convenience store, you have great breakfast. I go by your convenience store all the time, but I didn't know that. Now I do, and I want to try you out. That's sort of the thinking that you need to look at from that standpoint. All right, so that's good. So with the big box stores, do you deal with the store or regional managers directly? Typically, we'll deal with the regional managers, not just the store. Sometimes we do. Well, actually, let me take that back. We actually do deal with the actual store managers, and every once in a while, if they don't have if they don't have if they do not have as much hearsay, then we'll be able to go directly to some of those regional managers as well. Hold on one second, everyone. Sorry, everyone. So I think, yeah, that was for Miguel. Hope that answered the question. Miguel, we can also talk offline about that one too. Jennifer, for real estate, I love addressable geofencing because you can take a list of homes that are for sale in the market, or if you're a developer, you can geofence other developments or other locations that are under construction. I love that type of thing for real estate, and we use that often for a number of our real estate clients. How do these folks see the ads? Okay, so they will see the ads when they happen to open up a mobile app or a website directly on their mobile device. So if you think about Angry Birds, Words with Friends, The Weather Channel, Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, Daily Mail, they will see your ads when they open up an app or a website on their mobile devices. I hope that answers the question, Jennifer. Let's see here. If we know times traffic, target market exits, enters, geofence should be considered. Sorry, Lamar, shoot me an email and I'll get that question answered for you. Steve, using a coffee shop as an example of which individual frequent 5 days per week. Again, please explain how this is calculated. Steven, shoot me an email on that. You and I have spoken before a few times. I'm just a little confused on the question, so my apologies on that. Chris, you referenced geofencing malls. What is the tolerance for captured people? Is it 1 foot or 15 feet. It can go all the way down to the square, to, to the contours of a building. So if we only want to target a particular store in that location, we can. We just need to know exactly where it is in that store. And that's typically helpful from that standpoint. So good, I think we're good there. Simon Tuck, how well does geofencing work outside of the US? It works really well, actually. I mean, it's all depending on the delivery. You would just have to tell me which cities or which countries, and I can tell you what coverage we have in some of those countries. I know we've done a lot of work, done some work in Germany. I know we've done some in the UK. We've done some work in Canada as well. So if you just let us know, we can give you some perspective on that. Can I target Home Depot but only serve ads to women? Anonymous attendee. Yes, you can do that. We are a restaurant near 2 interstate highways. Can we geofence the intersection? Yes, you can geofence the intersection, but my recommendation would be probably to set a 1-day recency and have that be like part of a separate budget campaign. And then you may have another campaign where you're targeting other nearby restaurants. So all of your ad budget doesn't just go to people who are driving through that intersection. That would be the strategy that I would put forward for that type of campaign. Mike, what sort of window do you set for custom conversion tracking in order to have a good baseline of previous natural conversions? I mean, we can make a comparison from the time in which the campaign started to the campaign ended. So for us, that's our window. And so, I would say that we want to at least start looking at that conversion report after 1 week or 2 weeks, not after like 2 days though, typically. That's usually how we approach that. Let's see here. Miguel, are the child-focused videos and apps good sources to market products and services? I think the child-focused ones are okay, but that's more for the younger demographic, some of that younger audience that might be out there. That's at least the approach that I take from that standpoint. Again, I try not to assume that people that might be 55 years old, like my father-in-law, loves to play Candy Crush. So that doesn't mean that, there aren't, some elders out there that like to play Candy Crush, right? You're still trying to figure out what are the right apps or the right websites that are going to make the most sense. We still try to take that into consideration. Do you have more insights for LATAM? I'm sorry, Laura, shoot me an email on that question. I can get that answered for you. Mike, are you getting good horizontal accuracy from inside malls? It can be a little touch and go. I mean, certainly, let's see here. Can everyone still hear me? Everyone can still hear me, right? Okay, cool. Just saw a message that popped up. So again, it can be a little touch and go, but we do have the ability to target certain locations inside of malls. We just need to know exactly the location of the store that we want to geofence, and we should be able to reach some of the people that go inside those locations. How do you match the user that was impacted in one of the geofences with the users that entered? So inside of our report, inside of our standard reporting within our agency, we can actually show clients which locations actually translated into foot traffic to your store. So if you are a car dealership and you know that car dealership 1 is one that you've geofenced and it sent 5 people to your store, we can tell you that, hey, there was 5 people that came from car dealership 1 to your store, actually. So that's one of the things that we can talk about or provide some insights to from that standpoint. Let's see here. So I think that is all the time that we have for today, everyone. I'm going to try to do a better job making certain that we keep these calls to just 1 hour because I know everybody's busy. Everyone's got a lot of stuff going and a lot of stuff on your plate. But I think going into 2019 from a geofencing retail standpoint, I think geofencing is huge going into Q1. Trying to figure out the budgets that you want to set forth during that time frame. But this geo conversion lift report is really, really big deal. We don't use it all the time, but we do use it for our retail clients. And we use it in certain cases where we feel like there's some value that can be had by having that additional discussion. So if I didn't get answers to all your questions, my apologies, just reach back out to us. And then lastly, John, thanks for posting that, that link to the guide. If you all want to download that guide, please feel free to go to the website or go directly to that link. You may have to enter your name and your email, but once you do that, you'll get it and you'll be good. So I hope this was valuable, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll be sure to do another one in the near future. Talk to you soon. Take care.